On the Caribbean Sea, a happy family is having a wonderful vacation together on a yacht. The mother, Julia, jumps into the water to go for a swim, and while she's trying to relax, she feels something strange. However, she can't see anything around her, so she blames it on her imagination. Seconds later, the strange feeling returns. She still can't see anything, but this worries her, so she starts swimming back to the yacht. Suddenly, something starts pulling at her leg, and she desperately starts screaming for help. Her daughter, Cassie, can't hear her because she has her headphones on, while her husband Tom and her son Ben are busy with their fishing. Julia continues to struggle to stay afloat, and yelling is getting harder because of the water getting into her mouth. Soon, Tom realizes he hasn't seen Julia in a while and searches the yacht until he finally sees his wife in danger. After getting the kids, Tom takes the yacht closer to Julia and jumps into the water. He quickly reaches his wife, holding her close to keep her afloat. He swims back to the yacht, and the kids help them come aboard. The family comforts Julia, who doesn't know what happened and blames it on a current. That night, the family celebrates Ben's birthday with gifts and a cake. Cassie gets a call from her boyfriend, so she goes outside with a laptop to talk in private. He shows her that huge thunderous clouds have appeared above the city before the video call glitches and freezes. Cassie rushes back to her family to tell them what happened, and Tom blames it on being too far from land to get a good signal. At that moment, they hear a noise and go outside to discover a pod of whales passing by. Tom explains that whales follow the Earth's magnetic field, but when storms cause abnormalities, the confused whales follow the storms to the coast instead. Suddenly, the yacht shakes, making Ben fall. Tom is worried that something may have damaged the yacht, so he goes diving to take a closer look. After a few seconds of searching, Tom resurfaces with a cut on his shoulder. Julia stitches the wound, while Tom explains that he felt something behind him, and when he turned around, he got cut by the propeller. Whatever was swimming near him was really big, but he couldn't see it. What Tom did find was severe damage to the yacht, so they need to call for help. Julia repeatedly tries the yacht radio, while Cassie keeps looking for a signal on her phone to no avail. Suddenly, she's startled by a strange creature, but it's just Ben playing a prank with a mask. Eventually, the yacht stops working and is stranded in the middle of the sea. Julia finds a voice on the radio, but it's all indistinct noise. Tom says they have enough water and food for 4 days, so they'll have to wait for a fishing boat to pass by. Suddenly, the radar detects something nearby, and the family hears a strange noise. They rush outside and are shocked to watch several meteorites landing on Earth, making huge impacts as they crash. A meteorite falls into the water nearby, so Tom rushes to force the yacht to move again. As the engine struggles to move ahead, another meteorite falls and hits the area. The family holds on to each other in fear, and Tom notices that the balls of flame aren't meteorites, they're satellites. Then Ben points at some smoke coming out of the yacht. Tom takes a look and confirms the engine is fried. The wind is starting to pick up, so the family hides inside, not noticing that the compass is going crazy. The yacht starts shaking, and Ben falls again, getting hurt in the process. As the waves crash against the yacht, Tom struggles against the wind to get the life jackets from a box outside and brings them to the family. At that moment, the power goes out, so Tom moves fast to press a button on the power box. When the lights return, Ben notices that Julia's nose is bleeding. As Julia starts getting dizzy, Cassie runs to the sink to throw up. Tom keeps trying the radio to no avail. Suddenly, the family hears a high-pitched noise, and the wind gets worse. Julia tries to keep the doors closed. However, a hatch still opens, and soon the wind is breaking the windows. Tom lights a flare before darkness takes over. The next morning, the family wakes up in their shock to realize they survived the storm, although the yacht is mostly destroyed. The family goes outside only to discover that all the oceans in the world have disappeared, and now the yacht is stuck on land. After staring at the desert in shock, the family tries to think of what to do. Cassie looks for a signal, but nothing happens, and Ben plays with 2 dead crabs. Tom checks the compass and notices that the poles have been reversed. Last time this happened was more than 700,000 years ago. Cassie has a breakdown when she realizes her boyfriend must be dead and rushes to hide, kicking her mother out when she tries to comfort her. While Julie and Tom check what supplies have survived the crash, Ben ties his birthday balloons to a rock to hopefully get the attention of other survivors. Next, Tom tries the radio again and gets in contact with a man named Now, the captain of a submarine. His vessel has also gotten stuck on land, and he confirms that the magnetic poles have reversed, causing the ocean to retreat and submerge the mainlands. Now hasn't found other survivors and says that most communication systems are down. Since there are occasional systemic movements, he's concluded that the poles will reverse again and the seas could return in a week. Now advises the family to climb as high as possible because things will get violent when it happens. His partner died during the crash, and the submarine has room for 3 people. Julia and Tom convince him to save their kids, so he gives them his coordinates. Tom calculates that it'll take them 2 or 3 days to find the submarine, so he tells the family to have a good night of sleep because they'll leave early tomorrow.
The next morning, the family is packing their supplies when Tom sees something moving nearby. It's a limping man with a makeshift harpoon and a dog that keeps on barking. Tom approaches him and gives him a bottle of water, but he can't understand the man's language. After drinking, the stranger hits Tom with the bottle and kicks him in the face. A terrified Julia comes running, but it's too late. The guy is already stabbing Tom in the stomach with the harpoon. Tom's body twitches for a few seconds before the guy cuts his throat too. Next, the man starts chasing after Julia and even throws the harpoon, which only cuts her shoulder. This doesn't stop Julia from rushing to the yacht and getting to her children, telling them to hide while she locks the doors. The siblings get inside the sofa and Julia gives them the flare gun before grabbing a knife and hiding in the bathroom. The man pounds on the door until he manages to open it and bursts inside. He grabs some food and starts searching the yacht, eventually going to the bathroom. Julia manages to avoid him by climbing out through a hole in the wall. The guy looks out and doesn't see her, but when Julia tries to sneak away, the dog starts barking at her. Suddenly, it tackles her to the ground, leaving Julia no choice but to kill it with a knife. The stranger hears the dog whining and comes out to find its body, causing him to have a breakdown. Meanwhile, Julia sneaks around the yacht and climbs to the top so she can get back inside through the broken window. Unfortunately, the man finds her first and knocks her down with a punch. Julia holds onto the furniture as he tries to drag her away, and in the struggle, she manages to kick him off. Then the guy steps on her wrist to make her drop the knife. He grabs her by the hair and smashes her face on the floor before throwing her on the sofa to start choking her. The kids have been watching everything and can't take it anymore, so Cassie comes out and shoots the man with a flare. A fire immediately starts spreading through the yacht, so the kids run out, but Julia goes back to kick the man in the face and grab the map with the coordinates, plus their bags. Ben and Cassie cling to their father's body, and soon Julia joins them so they can all say goodbye together, in tears. At that moment, the creepy man comes out of the yacht, so the family starts running away while the yacht blows up in a big explosion. Sometime later, the family stops at a small waterfall to rest. Cassie wonders if the crazy man came to them because of the balloons, which makes Ben feel guilty. Julia assures her son that it wasn't his fault and urges the family to keep moving since the strange guy is still following them. At a small pond, Ben is fascinated by the body of a hammerhead shark. At that moment, Julia sees the man about to reach them, so the family starts running again. They go down a dune and discover a bunch of toxic waste, so they have to run around it carefully. Moments later, it appears they've lost their pursuer. As they continue to travel, they keep seeing other things stuck on the ground, like big dead sea animals and all the plastic from the bottom of the ocean. When Ben starts to slow down, Julia notices he's on the verge of dehydration and stops so everyone can rest. To her horror, the water bottle is almost empty, and Cassie realizes she mustn't have closed it well. Julia yells at her for being careless, but Cassie says it doesn't matter because there's no way they'll survive this anyway. After a long argument full of screaming, the family keeps moving. Eventually, the group finds a crashed plane and is startled by some sudden movement, but it's just birds. The family decides they'll spend the night inside the plane. They share a snack, and Julia is heartbroken to find a family picture inside Tom's jacket. Cassie asks for the story of how her parents met, so Julia shares how Tom went to the hospital she worked at and became her patient. He declared his love for her with flowers and a beautiful poem. In the middle of the night, Cassie leaves the plane to relieve herself. Suddenly, the creepy man surprises her from behind, but Julia jumps on him first and repeatedly stabs him with unleashed grief and fury. Cassie has to help her calm down with a hug.
The next morning, the body is covered in fleas. The family notices it has many bite marks, so there must be some animal hiding in the area. After the group leaves, a bunch of crabs come out of the man's mouth. A few hours later, Julia and Cassie stop to look at the map, but Ben just keeps walking. Even when Julia tells him to stop, he desperately buries his face in a pond to drink, and Julia quickly pulls him back, explaining that unknown water could make him sick. The family keeps on traveling and has to cover their heads to protect them from the scorching sun. Ben is starting to feel dizzy, so when they discover a bunch of old chairs, Julia and Cassie use them to improvise a shelter. Julia gives Ben a medicine injection, and they agree to spend the night there. Early in the morning, Julia wakes up because she hears a weird sound. She leaves the shelter to investigate and is shocked to discover a swarm of crabs coming closer. Julia rushes to wake up her kids and the family starts running as fast as possible. They come across a huge cargo ship and run toward it, noticing that 3 crew members are still alive. The woman wants to help them, but the 2 men refuse, and the group hides inside a container which they lock to keep the family out. The crabs are almost there, so Julia makes the kids climb to the top of the container. When she starts climbing too, the crabs begin to violently pinch her leg. The siblings have to help her mother up before she's dragged down. There's a hole on the side of the container, so half of the crabs go inside. The crew members open fire, but there are too many critters. Soon the crabs overpower and kill 2 of the workers. The last man reaches a hole in the ceiling, only for the crabs to bring him down and kill him too. Afterward, Julia bandages her leg injury and passes out. Sometime later, she wakes up in a sandstorm and finds herself alone. She panics as she comes down to look for her kids, although first she grabs the dead woman's weapon. Hearing her mother screaming, Cassie quickly comes back and explains that they went out to look for help, but they didn't find anyone. Then they reunite with Ben, who's found an open container they can rest in until the storm is over. Julia uses Tom's lighter to cauterize the wounds, which is incredibly painful. Once the storm is over, the family finds a bunch of water bottles in another container. Next, they check on the bodies and discover a radio plus a gun. Julia calls Na and informs him she's lost the map. In return, Na reveals he's been attacked by arthropods, which are creatures from the abyss. It seems the oxygen has driven them crazy. Na tells the family to hurry, because his instruments have calculated that the sea will come back faster than expected, so they only have a few hours. He shoots a flare and the family starts walking in that direction. After a long walk, the family finds a broken toilet and Ben pees in it. They can finally see the submarine nearby, but they'll have to cross a huge rock formation to reach it. As they make their way through, the walls start shaking and rocks begin to fall, causing a massive rock slide. Julia pushes her kids out of the way just in time and moves back to avoid getting crushed. Now there's a rock wall blocking the way between them. Julia tells the kids to keep going without her, but Cassie refuses and insists her mother should try climbing. An argument ensues, and after lots of yelling, Julia promises she'll find her kids later. A reluctant Cassie then finally drags her brother away. The kids climb the rest of the rocky formation and run toward the submarine, only to find Na bleeding outside. He explains it's over for him, so the kids can take the submarine. Realizing they'll have an extra spot, Cassie runs back to find her mother. Meanwhile, Julia is horrified to see the crabs coming and opens fire. She manages to kill a few of them, but the swarm is too big and she can't fight them all. At that moment, Cassie appears on top of the wall and offers her hand. So Julia starts climbing as fast as possible with her wounded leg. With Cassie's help, she reaches the other side and run together to the submarine. Ben is already standing on the roof and opens fire to keep the crabs distracted while his family climbs too. The crabs find Na's body and immediately feast on it. Julia takes the gun and keeps the fire going while she makes the kids go inside. Once they're safe, she realizes she's out of bullets, so she throws the gun at the crabs and joins her children inside. The family makes sure to lock the hatch properly and watches the crabs surround the submarine on the windows. At that moment, the ocean finally returns, so the trio rushes to their seats and puts on the belts before holding hands. The raging waves soon hit the submarine and start throwing it around, causing Julia to have visions of everything that happened and Cassie to throw up. Soon the high-pitched noise returns and knocks the family out. Sometime later, Julia and the kids wake up and are happy to confirm they're alive. They unlock the hatch and go out to discover that the waves have dropped the submarine in a destroyed city, which means there's hope to survive and rebuild.